It's a time in history that has been like no other, and it's very hard to articulate and to put into words.
Pierce Brosnan spent decades building the image of the perfect Hollywood gentleman. To the world, he was James Bond, charming, loyal, untouchable. But whenever people looked at his wife, Keely Shaye Smith, the conversation turned cruel. Endless jokes, harsh headlines, and constant criticism followed her for years. Now, after her stunning transformation, the same people who mocked her have suddenly gone silent. But this story is about far more than weight loss. It's about love, grief, loyalty, and surviving public judgment for decades. So how did Keely finally silence the haters after all these years? To understand that, we have to go back to the beginning of Bronson's first marriage. Brosnan's first love. It was the early 1990s, and Pierce Brosnan's career was entering a completely different league. Television audiences already recognized his charm and screen presence, but Hollywood was preparing to turn him into one of the most iconic actors of his generation. Soon, the world would know him as James Bond, sophisticated, confident, and seemingly untouchable. From the outside, his life looked almost perfect. Fame was growing, opportunities were everywhere, and cameras followed him constantly. But behind that image, Pierce was carrying a painful private reality few people truly understood. Years earlier, he had built a loving family with actress Cassandra Harris. Together, they raised their children while balancing the pressures of fame and work. Friends close to them described their relationship as warm, stable, and deeply connected. Pierce adored Cassandra, and family became the center of his life despite Hollywood's chaos around them. Then, everything changed. Cassandra was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and the illness slowly transformed their world into something filled with fear, exhaustion, and heartbreak. Pierce stayed beside her through every painful stage of the disease, trying to remain strong for their children while quietly watching the woman he loved suffer more each year. Even as his career continued moving forward, grief slowly took over his personal life behind closed doors. In 1991, Cassandra passed away. The loss devastated Pierce emotionally and left a silence inside his life that fame could never fill. For years afterward, he carried that pain privately while continuing to work in front of cameras and maintain the polished image the public expected from him. Then, during a trip to Mexico in the mid-1990s, someone unexpected entered his life. Her name was Keely Shaye Smith, and without realizing it at the time, that single meeting would quietly change Pierce Brosnan's future forever. Love before fame. In 1994, Keely Shaye Smith met Pierce Brosnan on a beach in Mexico during a work trip. The meeting did not happen inside a movie studio or at a Hollywood party. Keely was working as a journalist and television correspondent at the time. She had originally been sent to interview actor Ted Danson, but fate had other plans. During the trip, she crossed paths with Brosnan, who was immediately drawn to her warmth, confidence, and natural charm. What began as a casual conversation quickly turned into something much deeper. The two spent the evening talking for hours, sharing stories about their lives, careers, and dreams for the future. According to Keely, there was an instant connection between them. Brosnan later described her as a woman who possessed great strength and kindness, qualities he deeply admired. At the time, Brosnan was still carrying the emotional scars of losing his first wife, Cassandra Harris. The loss had left him heartbroken and uncertain about finding love again. Yet meeting Keely brought a sense of happiness and stability back into his life. After returning home, the two remained in constant contact. Their relationship grew steadily over the following years, away from the glare of Hollywood headlines. In 1997, they welcomed their first son, Dylan Brosnan. In 2001, they welcomed their second son, Paris Brosnan. The same year, Pierce and Keely married in Ireland after spending years building a family together first. Their marriage did not feel rushed or performative. It felt grounded and carefully built over time. Inside their home, they focused on family, privacy, and loyalty instead of celebrity attention. Keely supported Pierce through difficult emotional years while also raising their children and continuing her environmental activism and journalism work. Their bond grew stronger because both of them understood pain, responsibility, and emotional endurance long before public attention focused on their marriage. But while they quietly built a life together behind closed doors, another story slowly started growing online. And that story would soon turn Keely's appearance into one of Hollywood's cruelest public obsessions for many years afterward. Living under judgment. As the years passed, public attention around Keely Shaye Smith changed into something harsh and deeply personal. Instead of discussing her journalism career, documentary work, or environmental activism, many people focused only on her body. After the births of Dylan and Paris Brosnan, her appearance changed naturally over time. Weight gain, aging, and thyroid complications became constant subjects online. Every public photo created another wave of criticism across magazines, websites, and social media pages. At the same time, people treated Pierce Brosnan very differently. As he grew older, magazines praised his gray hair, his smile, and his appearance. Writers described him as handsome, distinguished, and timeless. But standing beside him, Keely faced endless judgment. Internet trolls openly mocked her weight and questioned their marriage. Some people even asked why Pierce stayed with her, as if love depended only on appearance. Those comments spread across comment sections for years without slowing down. In 2006, while pressure around her appearance was already becoming too much, Keely spoke honestly during an interview with Vogue. She said she never hid behind baggy clothing and never apologized for her curves. She refused to disappear simply to satisfy strangers online. Her words sounded calm, but they carried quiet strength. She chose dignity instead of public fights. She chose silence instead of anger. Pierce also stayed consistent through every cruel headline and public insult. He repeatedly defended his wife in interviews and public appearances. He openly said he loved her curves and called her beautiful many times over the years. Hollywood rarely allows famous men to speak that way without pressure, but Pierce never changed his message to please public opinion. Even then, criticism continued growing louder. The hardest part of the situation was not only the cruelty itself. The hardest part was how long people ignored everything else Keely represented. She raised children, supported her family, and stayed loyal during difficult years, yet strangers reduced her entire identity to appearance alone. Then suddenly, after decades of judgment and silence, the public started reacting to Keely very differently. And this dramatic shift exposed something far darker about the way society measures women. When the world changed. Recent public appearances showed her with a visibly slimmer figure, and the internet immediately noticed the change. The same magazines, websites, and social media pages that once mocked her appearance were suddenly filled with praise and admiration. Headlines softened almost overnight. Compliments replaced insults. Many people acted as if they had never spent years attacking her body before, but Keely never announced a dramatic transformation story. She never released diet plans, fitness secrets, or public explanations about her appearance. She continued showing up calmly beside Pierce Brosnan, exactly as she always had. That silence exposed something uncomfortable about public behavior. The attention was never truly about her happiness or health. People simply reacted differently because her body suddenly matched what society wanted to see. Even after the public praise returned, Keely continued focusing on family, environmental activism, and private life instead of chasing approval from strangers online. Pierce Brosnan also never changed his message throughout their relationship. Long before the recent attention, he publicly spoke about growing old together and accepting life changes naturally. He often described love as something deeper than appearance. Those words carried even more meaning after everything they survived together through the years. In 2013, Pierce lost his daughter, Charlotte Brosnan, to ovarian cancer, the same disease that killed Cassandra Harris. The loss reopened old wounds inside their family once again. During that painful period, Keely stayed beside him quietly and supported the family through another devastating chapter. By the time public opinion finally shifted around Keely's appearance, Their marriage had already survived grief, pressure, illness, criticism, and emotional exhaustion. Their story was never truly about beauty. It was always about endurance, loyalty, and standing beside each other when life became painfully difficult. Keely Shaye Smith spent years facing judgment while standing beside Brosnan. Through grief, pressure, and criticism, she protected her family and refused to let strangers define her worth. In the end, their marriage survived more than just appearances. So after hearing all this, do you think society judges women unfairly as they grow older? Drop your thoughts about this in the comments below. And if you found this video fascinating, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Also, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, because we'll be uploading more incredible stories like this one in the coming weeks. Until then, see ya!